Happy Wednesday, everyone.
Hello, hello.
We're excited to be here once again in this sort of 101 series on sort of broad topics, specific topics for moving marketing forward in the coming year for your therapy practice. Today, we're diving into search engine optimization or SEO, the do's, the don'ts, the what, how, when, where's, and everything else in between. The goal for this today is whether you're listening to this or watching this, is you're going to have at minimum a starting point if you're diving into SEO for the first time. You're going to learn a thing or two if you've been doing SEO for a little bit that might make it more effective for yourself. And you're going to get mine and Attilio's perspective on when you should start SEO, what are the most important elements of SEO that actually make a difference, and where to take it from here. Any disclaimers, processes, or anything else before we dive right in, Attilio?
No, I think I would just say we're going to try to take a really bipartisan approach here, guys. Very just like flat and simple. We've seen it all, good, bad. And so, quite frankly, we're just going to try to take a level headed approach to this. And so, I hope that you get some good value. And to be honest, I think we'd be doing a disservice before we like define it and put a stake in the ground to like help understand what the actual opportunity is here for SEO. So maybe get
Yeah.
you guys a little bit hyped up. I'd say that when it comes to search engine optimization, this is kind of like the owning the house of real estate investing, right? Like you own the house, you're
Yeah.
investing in your asset. Essentially, this creates not necessarily attention, but it catches attention that's already out there. And so, what's really interesting about this is you get people who are contextually looking for therapy, and you have to do it kind of in a competitive way. But once you kind of compete and make your way to the top, you really do own a large channel of potential new clients. And so
Yeah, for
I
sure.
would say that it's a good way to increase your reach online, consistently bring in new clients, and essentially kind of like spark you in someone's mind versus someone else.
Yeah, I just say SEO is one of those things where one plus one does not equal two when you do this correctly, right? If you do this correctly, one plus one over time equals 20, 30, 40, 50 plus, right? Because it is kind of like a winner take all situation in a lot of cases when doing this correctly. So it's a huge advantage to you, but it sometimes takes a little bit to get there, and I'm sure we'll talk about that more. In the grand scheme of things, if you're like, what is even SEO as we're digging into it? As we said, it stands for search engine optimization. Primarily, it's someone goes to Google and they search therapist near me, EMDR, what is it? Helping my child through divorce. Whatever myriad of problem awareness or specific therapy awareness, you are going to be the one that populates up in Google, or someone is, right? We've all done a Google search, and it's slot one, slot two, slot three, all the way through first page through 100th page, right? But no one really goes past page one. So our goal is to get our website from not showing up at all to getting it to land on page one. And Natilio, maybe explain a little bit more. How does Google do this? Why do they do this? How does this ranking process of showing up on keywords even work?
Yeah, so I like to kind of give actually, before I do that, I'm going to elaborate just a little bit. You want to be on page one, but not only do you want to be on page one, you want to be in position one. 90% of people stay on page one, and 30%, 35% of people who pull up page one click the very, very first result. So if you're at the top and on page one, you are creating the most, or you're capturing the most attention. I always give this analogy. Google Google makes its money when its searchers find what they're looking for quickly. There's a reason why people use Google versus Bing, and it's because Google has really, really smart. It has a really, really smart system that tries to pull the most relevant item first. Okay, so how do you create relevancy in Google's eyes? How does, and like, why does Google want to get paid more, right? Like, Google wants to get paid more. Google wants to make more money, so it wants to present the most relevant stuff, and so it presents relevant stuff by one, seeing if you're essentially peer reviewed, right? So this is kind of scientific in nature. Are you peer reviewed? Are people referencing your website? This strategy is called backlinks, right? You're getting backlinks, you're creating authority for your website. Another way that Google understands if you're relevant or contextual is going to be through what's actually written on your website, the actual content that is there. If you're talking about therapy, you probably will never be ranked for bikinis. Something completely irrelevant, right? So if you're doing one thing, the information on your site is an indicator of what topics or what keywords, this is our keywords, you might be relevant for. And then finally, content expansion or consistent posting. So Google wants up-to-date information. Google wants more information, because what that does is it tells Google, it tells the algorithm that's deciding where to put you, that one, you are super relevant on a topic, and that you're putting up consistently updated information. So you have the newest, best, most relevant, highest topical clarity on your website. And really, those are the biggest signals when it comes to being found in search. Being ranked, I should say.
Yeah, 100%. And we can get really, really minute with this. There are over 200 like key ranking factors that can affect your search engine optimization in the grand scheme of things. But bottom line is, when we approach this situation, we have to approach it like Google approaches it, right? They have sort of written the framework of what it takes to be successful, and we have to play by their rules, sort of think like them, so to speak. So as we're doing that, right, we have to understand how and where they're going to do it. It all starts with your keywords, right? A keyword is what your site is filled with. And so to discuss that component a little bit, the more precision and the more keywords that your site is filled with, the more opportunity certain pages and certain processes have to appear in your search terms. Obviously, home pages, specific service pages and stuff, we want to appear more. Maybe Attilio, walk us through what sort of like keyword stuffing, or even just like filling your website with relevant keywords starts to mean, as we're saying, how do we get more of these keywords in there? And we'll talk about how to find those in a second too.
Yeah. So keywords are what Google kind of categorized, right? So Google uses these robots. It crawls the internet to go through all these websites, and these robots pick up information like how does your site perform, the backlinks to your page, the quality of your content, if your website's mobile friendly, if other people are using your website. And so while it's crawling through all that, Google picks up keywords, right? These keywords are just the language that's on your page. And so Google's gone through so many iterations, and it continues to go through huge, massive updates where it just updates its algorithm. And so you brought up keyword stuffing. This is kind of an interesting one. Probably like 10 years ago, people knew that, oh, if Google just like looks at our keywords, if I put like 1 million keywords on my page, then of course I'm gonna rank, right? And so people would just have it used to be a joke in the SEO community. They'd have pages just with the one single keyword, and it was just a massive page with thousands of uses of therapist. And
Right.
sure enough, they would get ranked, right?
Yeah.
But today, it's not quite like that. Google's got quite a bit smarter. And they said, hey, when someone lands on a page that just says therapist 1 million times, that's not a good experience for the user. So there's kind of a balance between using the keyword, creating content with that keyword, and not just like overloading people with keyword, right? So there's kind of this balance, and the balance usually comes in from creating longer or more content. I think so many therapists are trying to make this like beautiful website with like, it's just like this small little block, this sleek block of text, and like, oh, this other little sleek block of text, and then boom, big image, or movement, and then boom, call to action, and it's like 5 or 10 words. The truth is that's not very contextual. The equivalent of that, like Google's not looking at the image. They might, maybe the image is creating such a good experience for your users that, oh, they're staring at it and they're taking their time on it, and it's more likely for them to click the call to action. But truth is, that's probably not the truth. So Google, Google's robots is reading that information, reading that data, and then ranking you guys accordingly. And so if you only have like 3 or 5 sentences on your web pages, on each individual pages, truth is, it's not very contextual. There's not enough keywords. There's not enough data there for Google to be definitive that you've reached that sort of context, that context, that level that you really need to hit, that critical mass. Right. I'd also say too, Google knows whether people are looking locationally. They know if people are looking for more information versus they're looking for a service, and you'll see this represented because if you type in like pizza near me is indicating a local result. And so the first things that pop up isn't like search website pages, it's the Google My Business maps, it's the map results. And that's the local directive. If someone's like indicating that they maybe want more information, so that'd be like autism tests or like autism quiz, like online autism quiz maybe. Then it's more likely that a video might pop up first, like a YouTube video, or like a specific quiz, like a page for a quiz or something. And so understanding the context behind the keyword is what Google's been doing a great job with these last like 5 or 6 years. And so there's contextual information, there's intent information with the keywords just as much as there is like the actual keyword. There's intent now behind it. Of course, if we're looking at like, hey, how do you find these keywords? Josh, I might just let you run through it if you want, or if you want to.
Yeah, I think there are a couple quick suggestions for finding these keywords. Number one is you think like your user, meaning you think like the person that you're trying to attract, right? You might call a specific process or system, even like something as specific as EMDR. That might mean a lot to you, but that might not be what your searcher is searching for. So we have to think the way that the person would search for your services, not think like a therapist. And you can do that by just going straight into Google and testing out a bunch of different searches for things that you think someone might try and search in order to get for you. And you can see what shows up, and you can model some of your keywords, your ranking, your content off the ones that do rank right now. SEO is a competition, and sort of the person who invests more time, money, energy, and better keywords and better writing is going to land at the top of the list eventually. So it's a great place initially to list. Attilio has mentioned if you get a Google Ads account, there's a keyword planner in there as well, where you can go in and you can find relevant search terms in your area or by topic. You can see the volume of them, like total amount of searches for them. So that can be a really good thing of like, oh man, like therapy, anxiety, and depression all in the same sentence, get tons and tons of clicks, which is more specific than just therapy. So maybe I go and I write an article, or I make a heading, or I fill in the blank on some of those things. So I'd say those are probably, there are a lot of keyword planners and researchers out there, but at least for the therapy space, just doing your due diligence, organically Googling, thinking like your ideal client and how they would search, and even using that keyword planner provided by Google probably is going to be some of your best places to kind of start and go through.
Yeah. After you've got a massive keyword list, you don't have to have a massive list, guys. For some of you guys who are just starting out, maybe you're small and you're like, I'm going to embark on SEO, that's going to be my strategy. Or maybe you're larger. Really, your keyword list just needs to cover some of the basics. Typically, it's just, I think people get confused. Google is smart enough now that it knows the difference between depression therapy and therapy depression. So like, you don't have to make every little iteration. Google knows, right? You don't have to like make it backwards. You don't have to like do misspellings. You don't have to like it understands the language and the context. That's kind of part of their whole like open AI
Right.
situation and like language, natural language processor stuff that they put out. So they know the difference between that stuff, guys. So if you're hitting like your service, if you're hitting some location keywords, if you're hitting certain like what someone might search for, just like rather than someone who's specifically making a decision on you, maybe someone who's considering therapy for the first time, or someone who's not even problem aware yet. Those are sort of the three big buckets to look into.
Yeah.
But that's essentially, you generate that keyword list and then you create content around those keywords.
Yeah.
Um,
Let's talk
and
about
so,
let's talk
yeah, go
about
ahead.
blogging specifically as a form of content. In your website, you're going to have three major forms of content, okay? You're going to have your on-page content. This is your homepage, your services page, your description, your whatever pages that you have, the on-page written content, right? Then you have your metadata content, which we'll talk about in a second. And then you have something like additional content, like blog content that you can post. And blog content, in our experience, is one of the best ways to check the boxes of consistently updating your site and improving the quantity and quality of the content that's in your site, and has the ability to constantly add in new and better keywords as you're doing the blog content. But there are a couple things to keep in mind here. What will actually constitute a good blog, and what is the point of this in 2023? Does anyone read these blogs anymore? Maybe you can answer, like, what are we actually accomplishing with a blog, Attilio, and why would we spend the time to still blog in the year that it is? Because most therapists, I think, would imagine that no one would read these blogs or no one would consume this. How could this be helpful for my practice?
Yeah, so really, there's a few strategies behind blogging. One, it creates a larger website, right? And so when it comes down to making this larger website, it's not for your clients, it's for the robots, it's for the SEO robots. So like don't think of your blog as, I need to get readership and that's when my blog is working. That's not really how it works. I'd also say too, blogging, there's probably going to be one pillar piece of content or like evergreen piece of content that people do actually land on and read through, right? They actually get value from it. But that's like your pillar, that's a bigger core piece of content. It's not the other 50 blogs that you have pointed towards your core piece of content that
Yeah.
people are really taking a look at. So keep that in mind. There's probably going to be like 1 to 5 blogs that are like core articles. And then beyond that, blogging does have some other implications that you can use. Like you can share it and should share it on like social media or post it on like medium.com. And then use it as a way to link other resources. So like if your person is reading it, if someone actually does hit it, they can actually find a few resources that are actually maybe a little helpful rather than just like random citations, just to be like, yes, this data point. So maybe have
Yeah.
a few like references out, and in that way you're really creating a healthy environment for your website. You're creating a healthy environment for the clients that are landing and hitting your pages, and then really it just becomes a little bit more of a holistic strategy rather than just I'm blogging for SEO. So just take a few extra
Yeah.
steps and make sure that you're paying attention to the right metrics, and the right metrics in this case
For
is
sure. And
people
if
on the site.
And if you're thinking about getting started with blogging, a couple quick suggestions. Number one is you can do it, or you can hire a team member or a contractor who's good at writing and researching to do this for you. As Attilio made that distinction between maybe just like blog content for the sake of just good SEO and consistent SEO versus pillar pieces of content, you would be really excited and proud for people to hit your site to read, that a lot of your stuff kind of points towards. And if, when you're doing that, a couple of things to keep in mind. Your titles, your heading ones and heading twos are really important for those keywords. You can really need to write somewhere between like 500 and 2,000 words per a blog article for it to be effective. And it's a great place to look at like Reddit topics or Google search topics or questions from community resources, whatever it is. So your blog answers questions or processes in terms of a content flow. And then it's a great vehicle for backlinking, which we'll talk about in a little bit here as you reference external resources. And then from there, you can put pretty images, make sure there's alt text and alt processes and keywords in there. And you can kind of take it from there on, like I said, the front end optimization and then the back end meta descriptions to make sure it's all kind of nip and tuck. Now, let's break down a couple of these other major strategies as content is number one, right? And I think, Attilio, you and I can agree with that. It's like content is number one. How much content you put into your site and consistently have in your site will be the biggest determining factor that leads your SEO ranking. But let's talk about on-page optimization for a second here and the effect that that has as well.
Yeah, so when it comes to on-page SEO, there's really a few key buckets here. It's going to be the actual keywords that are on your website.
Yep.
It's going to be linking to your other pages, like internal linking is what that's called. So on one page, you're linking to another page that you have. Then there's going to be your actual like URLs, the slug. So www.mytherapyflow.com/ frequently asked questions, something like that. Whatever the slug might be, we want the URLs to be succinct and nice. Then, of course, Josh touched on them just a little bit, our title tags and meta descriptions. These are going to be what's actually showing up in search, but it's nice to have those be contextual to the actual page. Of course, your content, any images you put on the page or on your pages. If you're using images, it's a great place. It's called alt text, alternate text. It was originally made for the ADA, for American Disability Acts. I think that's what the acronym is. But it's extra places where we can add keywords onto our site and it breaks things up visually. So within those buckets, Josh, I don't know if you want to flesh any of those out a little bit deeper.
I mean, I think overall it's pretty straightforward. It's, those are deeper things to dig
It
into.
takes work, but
Yeah.
yeah, it's just like the work. Yeah.
It takes work. It's just the process of going through each one of those categories when you're making a new page and you're going back to your current website and just trying to make sure all your, I's are dotted and your T's are crossed in terms of best practices. Maybe we talk a little bit about backlinks here. It's probably the one that's the most, I don't know, dare say, confusing for a lot of counselors, or the one that feels the most out of your control, right? So maybe we can talk about how to bring this into your control. Again, backlinking is the process of another website linking your website, right? So when you link your website on Psychology Today and Therapy Den, if someone reshares their blog post on your website, your link in bio, literally wherever that URL, the main homepage one, or your blogs or your services page, anything else is showing up or being referenced or being cited on another page, right? So sky's kind of the limit here in terms of how to go out and get more backlinks. You could find other providers in the space who reference your site as an ideal like referral source for specific topics. You could get backlinks by having articles or blog features like Psychology Today, Therapy Den, Good Therapy, and tons of journals and websites that will accept articles from you as a therapist or your blog posts. They might reference your website. You can take, your local providers in your area. Can you show up on your school's website, church's websites, other things as preferred providers? Like sky's the limit. Networking is part of this process. Maybe Attilio, you have a few more suggestions on other places people can seek out or acquire healthy backlinks to boost their website up in.
Yeah, I'd say for this one, guys, it used to be really common practice for marketing agencies that were doing search engine optimization, for them to like go have a robust backlink strategy where they would go to other people's websites, talk to web admins, like create networks, so that they could get backlinks for their clients' websites. But Google is they have outsmarted us again. Google kind of knows that people are doing that, and so that they know that you can kind of game the system when you do that. And so they've gotten smart enough, and they've understood now that it's not all about just volume of these backlinks. It's not just all about having a million backlinks. It's about having topical backlinks. It's about having possibly local backlinks and having high authority backlinks.
Yeah.
And so there's kind of these three big buckets of backlinks. And what's really interesting is these days, more often than not, it's more of a pain in the butt to go and try to do some of the old school backlink strategies. And honestly, a lot of it has become either pay to play or earned. So you're either paying a website to get essentially featured on their network, on their blog, on their website. You're either paying for that to happen, or you've earned it, which means you're probably creating some type of content, some type of shareable content that other people can either quickly reference. It's some piece of high value, and they're sharing it, whether that's on social media or whether that's on their own website or whether that's through some of their other documents. So quite frankly, being a topic leader, a content leader, actually creating something that is high value is probably one of the best things you can do. And then sharing it, right? You got to get eyeballs on it. So sharing it is really, really important. When it comes to local, that's where you can kind of just do some networking, appear on your Chamber of Commerce site, like that stuff. It's pretty straightforward and easy. It doesn't take much effort. Some websites don't allow it anymore that you link because people really just got into gaming the system so much. So you'll notice that sometimes webs like a lot of like local things or like community driven things actually don't allow that anymore because they don't want someone to just join the Chamber of Commerce for the backlinks. Believe it or not, I've done that before. So back in the day. And then high authority, guys. High authority means a website that has authority or is actually revered oftentimes is linking to you. That would be like the Wikipedia is linking to your website, right? Ford will never be out Forded by Ford. General Motors will never be out General Motored by General because they have Wikipedia. They just have so many citations. They have references. They have news articles. They have so much revolving around them that if you're looking up General Motors, you're not going to just randomly pull up some random website. You're going to pull up General Motors and everything around General Motors. So having high authority is really powerful. Sidebar, guys, the therapy space is not very competitive. You don't need to worry too much about this. Honestly, if you're just putting in a little earnest effort and you're creating some content and you're sharing it and you get 3 to 5 to 10 to 20 backlinks, you're probably more than well equipped to really, quite frankly, reach number one in almost any category. Yeah. Just know, though, that it is competitive. We've talked about it before. There's a competition. You're a competition at the top. If you want the top space, so does someone else. And so that means that it's a little bit of a race on that.
Yeah, 100%. I think there are a couple last things that really affect. If you have technical issues in your website specifically, that does affect your search ranking. So obviously broken websites, slow websites, things in that. So your site speed specifically, there are a number of tools out there for you to test your site speed. If Google likes a mobile friendly, they like a fast site, those are things that get you better rankings. If it takes your website 10 minutes to load because you're on an awful server, right? Like that isn't doing you any favors. So there are a number of ways. We probably don't have the time to dig into like what produces site speed or doesn't site speed on this, but know that if you test your site speed and it's a really like big issue in terms of taking a long time to load, that's something to figure out, to look into, to research, to hire help, whatever it is to get that sorted out. Obviously, you don't want any broken links. You don't want any 404s. You don't want edited page with links still out there that exist. You just kind of want good hygiene in terms of your links and your domain names, right? So your domain names in terms of you don't want, buyfrenchfries.com and it's a therapy website, right? So I think we see some practice owners, they get really cute with their practice names. They get really ethereal. It's 10 words long or whatever, and then that's their domain name. And that doesn't do you any favors in terms of getting your URLs ranked or properly cited in terms of what it's meant for. Google has to do more work, right? Not to do this suggestion specifically, but like IllinoisTherapyPractice.com is going to be a much more straightforward name than HealYourBrokenHeart.com, right? Like one is explicitly about therapy, and the other one, like, who knows what that could be about, even though it could be relevant to like couples and grief counseling or something like that, right? Anything to add there, Tilio?
Yeah, just a couple quick tools. When it comes to site speed, just Google search Google Site Speed Checker. They have a developer tool that you literally just put in your URL and it tells you the site speed. You can follow all the directions. It's really, really techy, but also, guys, you can go to Upwork and hire someone for like $100 and they can fix all your site speed issues.
Yeah.
When it comes to broken links, you can use Google Search Console. So sign up for Google Search Console and you can find all the broken links or search errors on your website. Again, just use Google's tools because one, they're free, and two, honestly, they're probably the best out there.
Yeah.
And then finally, domains. Yep, it doesn't have to be cutesy. It can be cutesy, but just make sure that your extensions, so the actual slug, so that's when you're like mytherapyflow.com/frequently asked questions / how do I know when my subscription is done or something like that. So make sure that the slugs are relevant and apparent, and .coms, .orgs, .nets are all the ones that get indexed best. So if you're tempted to buy the $1 domain that's a .biz, maybe it's worth spending $9 more just to get the .com if it's available. So keep that in mind. And then finally, I would just say, hey, track your performance. If you're going to do something, if you're going to take actions on something, you're going to want to make sure that you're tracking. And as far as tracking goes, we like Google Search Console and Google Analytics. You combine the two, and it gives you all the tracking that you really need. There's going to be some other things in there. Google released Google Tag Manager, and there's these like Google for and universal Google tags that you can use. Basically, they're just important to help you get the right data that you need.
Yeah. We have a lot of other content out there talking about Google My Business Profile, which digs a lot more into your local ranking, map-based ranking, and some of those things. So feel free to search our other videos or content. But to give you the 2-second overview on that, get a Google Business Profile, get 10 to 30 reviews on that profile, and then update that weekly as well with pictures, posts, and other things, and consistently get a review, a couple of reviews a week, a couple of reviews a month. And that goes, we have some practices that get between 100 and 150 calls a month just from a well-optimized Google My Business Profile. Maybe we'll make another longer form piece of content on that specifically, but that's sort of like an underpinning of your local ranking for SEO, and we could really get into the niches with that. As we end our time here, for the person who is thinking about diving into SEO for the first time, what would be the 3 steps for success that you would give them? Because we shared a lot of content here.
Yeah, I would say first and foremost, make sure that you can really commit to it. It's like literally it's another marketing channel, right? If you're just dabbling, you could get somewhere, but it's going to take you 2 years. It's going to take you 5 years if you're just dabbling with it. So get serious would be my first suggestion. My second suggestion on top of get serious would be make sure you're doing it at the right time, because it can really take a lot of energy in times when maybe using energy elsewhere might be the better decision. And I say this specifically for the new like fledgling practices. Can you write a blog once a week? Yes, absolutely. Will it slow you down too much? Probably not. So it's probably okay for you to start blogging. But if you're going full in on search engine optimization, expect it to take a while. And you could be spending a lot of money and time and energy on things and just like figuring stuff out, testing, tweaking, making adjustments. And quite frankly, you don't know if it's going to work. It could be a lot. Okay. So just be selective when you do it. if you don't particularly like maybe like social media and this is your form of like publishing or doing creative work so that you just have some type of output as well, I think it's a good repository for just like general output. You have energy or you're like, I need to do something. I can't just sit around for my marketing. Write a blog or five. But I wouldn't say that it's something that certainly probably I'd suggest at like the $20,000 or $30,000 a month mark. That's when I would say this is probably the time to start investing some money and energy into search engine optimization and staying consistent with it.
For sure. And I just want to speak directly to the person who's been doing SEO for a little while and maybe isn't seeing the results that you want quite yet. Number one is, how long have you been doing it? We have seen, again, if you're actually committed doing the work, sometimes it takes 6, 12, 18 or more months. So continue to do the actions. And this is a scenario where, there is a little bit of sunk cost into it before you're going to see the result. So be in it for the long haul. So if you've been like, man, I've been hauling for 3 months, or I've been doing this for 6 months and it just isn't producing, there could be a chance you're doing something wrong, and you should definitely look into that. Maybe get an SEO consult from a company or Upwork or just someone who knows what they're doing in the space to get some extra eyes on it if you really think that you're off kilter. But overall, maybe you just need to execute some patience and consistency to start to see the results. That's recommendation number one. Recommendation number two is pump up your content production and your content quality, right? If you're doing 1 blog a week, maybe go 2 blogs a week, right? And then the last thing is check and measure your site traffic. So there's a chance that it is working, but there's something wrong with the conversion sequences for your site, meaning you're getting 100 people visiting your site a month or 200 people visiting your site a month, which that could be 5, 10, 20 people actually reaching out to you or something, but you haven't done a best practice in terms of your call to action, or you have the right keywords, but your copy on your website isn't super strong that actually compels someone to reach out to you as their therapist, right? And if you haven't checked in and being how many people are visiting my website now that I've been working on my SEO for a long time, right? You can't just do it and hope that it works. We have to measure it to see what's going on. So maybe you have done enough, and there's other things that we need to do, other marketing best practices to convert that traffic, right? So as we end our time here today, we hope some of that content helps you guys get your head around SEO, points you in a new or right direction if you're starting this for the first time, or you're trying to take this up a notch in the coming months here.
I'll make you guys a deal too. If you're watching this video and you made it to the end, comment your favorite rock band. If you watch this in the next 24 hours, comment your favorite rock band or some artist that you like, and I'll give you our SEO SOP entirely for free. I'll send it to you in the DMs. So if you made it all the way to the end here,
oh, that's spicy.
Yep, I'll give you, it's a massive recipe. So if you comment, I'll give it to you directly. But that's only for the secret people who are watching this all the way through. So
the next day or so here,
this is December 7th, 2022 at 5:21 Central Time. So we'll see who takes us up on it.
It's quite the offer. Well, guys, go kick some butt. We'll see